We've all been there. One minute you're struggling with a difficult section in a game, the next, your adopted son has somehow fallen out the third-story window with a trajectory that the police are calling highly improbable. The fact of the matter is, sometimes games are hard, it's true, but do they have to make you so angry? I don't think so. With my newly found free time in the latter half of 2024, I was able to put a good amount of hours into Celeste, a 2018 platformer about climbing a mountain, and it continues to impress me at the fact that I can die over 16,000 times, and yet little Cletus is never actually in danger of being defenestrated. This is because I think Celeste has perfected the art of difficulty. Anyone can create something that is frustrating and annoying to deal with. Just ask my parents. The key is to make it fun and engaging enough that people will actually want to persevere through it. Celeste is definitely challenging, but I never felt like giving up, rage quitting, or complaining endlessly online, and I think this is due to 5 key factors. The first is lightning fast respawns on death. There's nothing more frustrating than a hard game that also makes you wait through a long animation or loading screen when you fail. I get PTSD when I think of the stupid Mile High Club achievement in Call of Duty 4, and yes, I was alive back then. My Call of Duty didn't even have Nicki Minaj, can you believe that? Anyway, in this level you have 60 seconds to clear a plane full of bad guys, and every time you die this stupid sound effect plays and the screen blurs and a quote comes up that's like, "War is bad," said by some dumb general, and the whole time you're sitting there just like, so can I try again? Can I play now? Can I go again? And it can seem quick the first few times, but when you realize how often you're gonna die on certain levels, these downtimes really start to stack up.
Alright, I get it!
But in Celeste, every time you wreck yourself, it takes only 1.6 seconds to reset you, which is not just nice for quality of life, but it also improves your mental attitude by letting you try so many times per session. If this is still too slow, you can actually speed it up to just 1 second by pressing the jump button too, but I like the extra 0.6 to convince myself that surely this is the try I'll succeed on. This is probably one of the easiest ways to keep people playing. I don't want to waste my time sitting through loading screens, I want to waste my time efficiently. Of course, the longer you get to play without resetting, the more patience I have for these screens, and in some games you really need the time to just sit there and wallow in your own stupidity. But lesson number 1 is this: if your game has rapid fire deaths, it should have rapid fire respawns. Number 2 might be a controversial one, but remember we're talking about making difficulty fun and engaging here, and I think this is best done with frequent checkpoints. Now there are 2 schools of thought here. In the first, difficulty is created by having a long distance between checkpoints, so the challenge is in your gameplay consistency. You just gotta get to that next bonfire, and after a few minutes you're sweating, crying, and throwing up because please don't kill me, I don't want to go back all the way to 4 minutes ago, please! But this also means that if the game is too hard, players will get discouraged because they've already wasted 30 minutes on one section and the next checkpoint is still 50 miles away. I don't want to spend my limited gaming time grinding away doing the same thing only to have to quit without any real progress. That's what I have a job for. The alternative is frequent checkpoints, which allow developers to increase difficulty by making much harder sections, because you just gotta beat this one little part one time to move on. I find these short challenges a lot more fun to play, which is probably why my wife calls me the Minuteman. Celeste executes this perfectly. You just have to beat the screen you're on and you'll get a new reset point for the next one. The difficulty comes from precision rather than consistency. And in my humble caveman opinion, hard thing one time more fun than medium thing lot of time. The mental aspect of always having the potential to make progress is just much more rewarding to me, especially as I get older and have less time available for games. And honestly, once you get to the more difficult bonus content levels in Celeste, the screens do get longer while still requiring quite a bit of good timing and precision, so there's always a balance to be had. But the main story mode of the game keeps the screen length pretty short, which I think is a much more fun and engaging difficulty for the average player. If you are vehemently disagreeing with me at this point, then I'm guessing you're a fan of the Fodian type games like Getting Over It, Rock Pushing Game, or Chain Gang Game where you have no checkpoints and can fall all the way to the beginning, losing hours of progress. I agree that these are great games to watch your favorite streamer struggle at, but I honestly don't know anyone who actually sits down and enjoys these on their own, because I don't have any friends. Number 3, I'm gonna say it, 1 difficulty. Yes, I am a 1 difficulty enjoyer. If you treat video games as a creative medium, the concept of changeable difficulties is kinda weird. There's no option to remove instruments from music or dumb down movies to suit the consumer. You either like them or you don't, or you add Subway Surfers to the side for those pesky dialogue scenes. Now there are financial incentives and accessibility reasons to make alternate difficulty options, I understand, but they also enable developers to be pretty lazy in how they add difficulties, usually by just doubling enemy health and damage. On the other hand, 1 difficulty games do 2 important things. They allow you to experience the exact game that the developer wanted to create, so you know their original vision is preserved, and they force the developer to find more interesting ways to add difficulty. Celeste does this perfectly. Its normal story mode, chapters 1 to 7, is challenging, but I never actually got hard stuck and made good progress every time I played. And this beats the game, it's a satisfying narrative end, and I really believe that any level of player could do it if they set their mind to it. Now if you want to collect all the strawberries, blue hearts, and B-side tapes, you'll have to tackle harder rooms, and progress will be a little slower. If you still like the game, you can do chapter 8 and all the harder B-side levels, and then even harder C-side levels, and then the free DLC chapter Farewell, and then there's the Moonberry, and after all that, if women are still bothering you, there's the Golden Strawberries, which require you to get through levels without dying at all and will ensure that your gamer stench drives away all but the most determined maidens. But these levels all have one thing in common. A ton of thought and effort was put into making each one just a little bit harder than the ones that came before it, while still using the exact same mechanics that have always been available to you. There's no stupid quick fixes like you die quicker or enemies die slower. And since the challenging but fair base game is at the bottom of the difficulty totem pole, it allows anyone determined enough to experience the full narrative, while allowing players who want a harder challenge to continue with the extra content. Now here you might say, but Killer Whale, Celeste does have difficulty options if you count the assist mode, which specifically allows players to make the game easier. To which I say, that doesn't fit my narrative and I'm moving on to number 4. Now I said the story mode should be challenging but fair, which is easier said than done, especially since it's really tough for developers to know how hard their game is after spending so much time playtesting it. So what does this actually look like? The game should first and foremost focus on linearly scaling difficulty. It's crazy how many games get this wrong and just slap a massive fuck you in the middle of their game in the form of a super tough boss or bullshit mission. Celeste avoids this by slowly adding mechanics over time and letting them be fully explored before the next is introduced. Chapter 1 has moving traffic blocks, Chapter 2 has dashy space things, 3 has these meatballs that I hate, 4 has wind and green blobs, and so on. And it's not until the bonus levels 8B and 8C that they even combine these mechanics together in the same screens. Along with the per level mechanics, Celeste also slowly evolves basic obstacles as well. Spikes start static, then they can move, then you can pass through them. Then there aren't even walls, just spikes. Everything is just spikes. Stamina crystals evolve to springs and blobs and feathers and eventually double crystals. Every bit of the game's progression is designed to just slightly build on the previous screen's mechanics, and by the end of the game, you'll absolutely breeze through sections you used to find difficult because the game has taught you how to play it so well. Let's look at the achievement percentage for Celeste's first chapter completion, about 70%. Look further and you'll see about half of that finish the game. Now let's look at some other challenging platformers. Hollow Knight goes from 70% to about 22%. Super Meat Boy from 68% to 7%, and that's just for beating the light world. N++ goes from 82% to 10% just to beat a row of novice episodes. I admit single player game retention can be due to a variety of factors, but Celeste almost gives you the same rush as a gambling addict by how doable each screen feels. Surely, next attempt I'll get it. I'm so close, I just need to hit that last dash. Without its exceptional linear difficulty scaling, the urge to complete the levels wouldn't be nearly as strong. I like all the games I listed, but it's clear that Celeste is way better about teaching and keeping the player engaged with challenging but fun difficulty. Hey, wait a minute, that's the subject of this video! So we have fast respawns, frequent checkpoints, 1 difficulty, and linear difficulty scaling. The final key to fun difficulty is the key to almost any good product, and yet companies fail it again and again. Minimize bullshit. Bullshit in this case is anything that makes a player say, that's bullshit, which includes things like 180 no-scoping one-shot sniper jackals from Halo 2, the awful hitboxes in Dark Souls 2, or literally any mechanic from Dead by Daylight. Oh my fucking god! The worst thing about bullshit is that fanboys of the games will actually come together to praise the developers for making such a high-skill game that requires frame-perfect inputs, when in reality most of this stuff is completely unintended. The developers of Celeste took a different approach, and decided to make almost every possibility for bullshit actually easier on the player. You can jump a few frames after leaving a ledge. Your character will slip past edges that you missed by a pixel or two. Dashes into wall jumps are more forgiving than they need to be. This is because Celeste developers understand that 99% of players don't care about skill when playing a hard game, they just want it to feel fair, whether they win or lose. The absence of these little tricks will make a lot of players say the game feels bad or clunky without really being able to elaborate why. Play Spider-Man without swing assist if you really want to see what you're missing out on with this kind of stuff. These helping additions to the game don't come at the cost of reducing the skill ceiling either. Frame-perfect inputs are still really important when it comes to speedrunning, golden strawberries, and modded levels. If you are actually a psycho who wants to be punished for missing the 19th pixel-perfect jump in a row, be my guest. but there's really no reason to force that onto the casual players during the main story mode. Again, this video was all about fun and engaging difficulty, which is slightly subjective to a degree. Some people like being challenged in other ways, and would argue that the victory at the end of a long struggle that almost no one else has attempted makes it that much sweeter. But for the rest of us, we just want the simple stuff. Don't make me wait after every death. Don't make me lose a ton of progress. Don't give me lazy difficulty options. Don't throw in a random insane difficulty spike. And finally, don't bullshit me. For me, Celeste hits all these marks perfectly, killing me over 16,000 times but never once discouraging me from playing. I love that the first thing that Celeste tells you is you can do this. Every design choice in crafting the game's difficulty is made in favor of the player eventually succeeding. Whereas a lot of hard games feel like an angry coach telling you to suck it up and get good, hoping the shame of defeat motivates you, Celeste feels more like a loving parent who gives you every opportunity to overcome your own challenges, but still knows that you have to do it yourself. Just like in life, there's a balance to be had between the two, and sometimes you need to be pushed hard to succeed. But if you give me the choice on which one I prefer to spend my valuable time with, there's not really any debate.
Yo! Let's go, bro. Believers, I always knew I could do it. I always knew I could do it.
Agree? Disagree? What's your favorite hard game and why? Let me know your thoughts and musings on the subject. For every comment, I'll spend 1 extra minute in the hospital with little Cletus instead of at the casino.